Hey guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling. Appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to watch today's episode. Guys, got another story time from back in the day today. I'm going to tell you guys about the bass that cost me winning 2 Bassmaster Megabucks tournaments in a big way. This is hard to take. It's a hard story to tell because it brings back bad memories, but I think you guys will find it really interesting how this went down in today's episode. It's just, I look back at those 2 tournaments that I'm getting ready to tell you about, and it's like, I don't know. It's like, am I paying some karmic debt or something like that for what happened? Because it is just literally unbelievable how this went down. So we're going to get into that in today's story. Also, guys, a quick reminder. I know everybody's thinking about spring fishing, getting ready. If you guys are looking, guys, to get a couple baitcast reels for this coming season, guys, check out this Lews Custom Pro right here. This thing has been my favorite reel. I got it from Tackle Warehouse this past fall. 11 ball bearings, super smooth, buttery smooth, great drag system. It's got just a great, just everything about it. Large handle, super comfortable. And guys, I have been fishing with this thing all fall and I have not backlashed at one time. This is the first reel I have never backlashed. So I'll put the the Lews Custom Pro reel link in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. If you guys would like to pick one up using that link, good way to help the channel out and get you a good reel too. It's also a really nice looking reel, guys. It's a really beautiful reel here. So I really love the thing. Okay, guys, get into this, man. This is a couple painful stories to tell. I'm going to tell you both of these stories, what happened here. There's 2 different stories, 2 different Megabucks tournaments that I should have won easily, both of them. And I finished, God, what was it in these things? I finished 3rd in one of them. No, third, actually, I finished 3rd in both of them in both of these Megabucks tournaments. So first one I'm going to talk about is it was at Richland Chambers Lake in Texas. This was a Bassmaster Megabucks tournament. Jeff McGee eventually won this tournament. Denny Brower got 2nd, and I got 3rd. But there's a bass that cost me both of these tournaments. Let me get into that. Now, first of all, we qualified for the top 10 in the Megabucks tournament at a Richland Chambers Reservoir in Texas. And then they had the top 10 finals at a little city lake in the middle of Dallas called White Rock Lake. It was a 2-day tournament, top 10 in the tournament. Super tough fishing, guys. This was one of those lakes where it was in the middle of the city and it was there's people everywhere. I mean, there's literally in the middle of the city. There wasn't many bass in this place. It was a tough place to get a bite in. None of us had seen it before. None of us had fished it before. And we're on this 10-hole course where everybody has to rotate the 10-hole course. That's the way all the Megabucks tournaments were. So anyway, first hole we get to, the first day of the tournament, the first hole we get to, there's this reed line. There's got some cattails on it. And I'm flipping the same bait that I made the top 10 in. I was flipping a blackened chartreuse jig with a pork frog on it. That was the bait that got me there. So I'm like, well, I'm going to stay with this bait. So the first hole I go to, I start pitching these reeds, and about 10 minutes of the day, I hooked about a 2-pounder. This was probably a 15 or 16-inch bass. Nice. It was a 14-inch limit in this tournament. So I flipped in there and I hooked this 2-pounder. It came up and jumped a couple times. I had it on 25-pound line and it's a 2-pound fish. So I got it up by the boat and I tried to swing it over the side of the boat, and it got about probably 6 inches. I got it all the way out of the water and I'm starting to swing it over the side of the boat, and it gets about this far from the top gunwale and comes off and falls back in the water. So I didn't think much about it. It's like, God, that sucks. It's right off the bat, it's a nice keeper. So I fished the rest of the day and never had another bite. So the first day of the tournament, there was only 3 people out of the top 10 that caught a bass. Denny Brower was leading the tournament with 7.5 pounds. I think he had 3 fish that weighed 7.5 pounds. He was leading. Second place, I think it was Jeff McGee. He had 5 pounds. And then I think that one other guy had a 2-pounder, and the rest of us zeroed. It was super, super tough. So anyway, we go out there the second day, right? And I go through the first 2 holes and don't catch one. I get to the 3rd hole, guys, and I catch about a 5.5 pounder. And I caught it on a Shad Rap crankbait. And I'm like, this is a freaking giant. It's like, I'm back in the game. You know, I got a 5.5 pounder, which by far the biggest fish of the tournament, and I'm freaking pumped. And guys, I catch that 5.5 pounder, and then I go probably another 20 foot down the bank, and I catch another nice keeper, like a solid 2 pounder. So right off the bat, I know I've already, you know, made up the ground. It's like I'm 3 holes into the tournament, and I figure that I've got probably, I don't know, close to 8 pounds, something like that, about 8 pounds of fish. I mean, it was 5.5 and maybe a 2.5. But anyway, I figured that I had about 8 pounds, and Denny was leading with 7.5. So I fished the rest of the day and never had another bite. Okay. So at the end of the day, we all take our boat out. They pulled us out, you know, in the parking lot. We're getting ready to go to weigh-in. They had a giant weigh-in. There must have been freaking 10,000 people at this weigh-in in downtown Dallas there. So we're pulling our boats out, and we line them up single file, and Trip Weldon came over to me. And he looked in all of our live wells to check our fish, and he looked in my live well, and he went around to everybody else, and he comes back over to me. He goes, Randy, he goes, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but he goes, congratulations, you're going to win this tournament. You're going to win the Megabucks tournament. And he goes, Denny didn't catch one, Denny zeroed, and Jeff McGee only caught one. And, you know, he said, you're going to win the tournament. So I'm like pumped out of my mind, you know, it's like, God. So anyway, we get up there, and, you know, Denny comes up to the scales. He didn't have a fish. Jeff McGee comes up there, and he had one fish, and he ties Denny. You know, so both of them have 7.5 pounds, and I'm the last one to weigh in. So I need 7.5 pounds. I need 7 pounds and 9 ounces to beat him. And I get up there, and it's like, you know, I looked at the fish and said, this is going to be close. And they weighed 7 pounds and 5 ounces, the 2 fish that I had. So I finished third in the tournament. But it's like losing that one, you know, I lost that 2 pounder, flipping that jig and that reed line the first day would have won me the tournament. And then on top of that, having Tripp tell me that I'd won the tournament, it was like a kick in the balls. By the way, that was sort of interesting because for third place, I won a fully rigged Ranger boat. And this guy came up to me and he said, I'll buy that boat from you right now. He gave me $30,000 in cash at the weigh-in. So I drove home with $30,000 in cash from this dude just buying the boat right there from me. Okay, now the second one, this was Bassmaster Megabucks tournament at Lake Murray, South Carolina. And this was a tournament. I qualified like 4th or 5th going into the top 10. It was the same thing. They took the top 10, and we had a 10-hole course that had been off limits throughout the course of the tournament. So nobody had fished this one creek on Lake Murray. And I was catching all my fish on a floating worm and flipping a jig around some docks. So anyway, the first hole that we go to, right off the bat, the first hole, I'm talking, I hadn't made 20 casts, and I jumped off 2 5-pounders on a one cut. There was this one cut, and I cast back in this cut, and I hooked 2 5-pounders, fought them all the way to the boat, and they jumped off. Went through the course of the day. I was still catching them pretty good, and after the first day of the tournament, to make a long story short, I'm leading the tournament. So I'm leading Megabucks after the first day. You know, I can't remember how much weight I had, but it was, I don't know, 11 or 12 or 13, maybe 14 pounds, something like that. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. But I was leading the tournament by a couple pounds. Larry Nixon was in second, and I think Larry Nixon was in second, and I think Tommy Biffle was in third. So the next day of the tournament, the second day, we get out there, and fishing's a little bit tougher. It's a little bit slower, and I catch one right off the bat. And then I go to the second hole, and there's one of those, you know those conservation markers that they have for planting conservation brush piles. There was a buoy in the water, and it said conservation brush pile or something. I threw my worm over there, I threw the jig over there into that brush pile, and I catch a 6-pounder, which is my second fish of the day. And then I catch a couple more. I catch another one about 4. And, you know, the camera boat's on me the whole time. They know what everybody's catching because they've got radios. They're talking to everybody else. And we get to the last hole of the round. And we got about probably, 10 minutes left to fish before the tournament's over. And Chuck Roberts, who's the producer of the Bassmaster, he was filming me with the camera guy there. And he goes, Randy, he goes, we got to get out of here. We got to run back to the weigh-in and get set up to film the weigh-in. He said, same thing. He goes, Randy, he goes, I'm not supposed to tell you this. He goes, but congratulations. You're gonna win megabucks. He goes, I talked to everybody else. He goes, Tommy Biffle's probably gonna finish second in the tournament. We had like 5 minutes left to fish. So anyway, I'm jacked and I'm pumped. It's like, finally, I'm gonna win this megabucks tournament. We get back to the tournament. We get back to the weigh-in there, and I'm all jacked up. I'm on stage and everything, and I get up there, and Tommy Biffle weighs in, and he had caught a 4 or 5 pounder, the last cast of the day off of a dock, and I think on a jig or something like that. Winds up beating me in the tournament, the last cast of the day, catching this big fish off a dock, after I'd been told by the officials that I was going to win megabucks, for the second time. So wound up didn't win that megabucks tournament. But anyway, guys, that's a story of the bass that cost me winning 2 megabucks tournaments, and I've had that happen a lot, guys. I probably had about 25 Bassmaster tournaments just that same way, where I had the fish on and lost them, just like jumping those 2 big ones off on the floating worm. But it's hard to take. I mean, you get jaded after a while. I mean, after that happens time after time again, it plays a toll on you. It racks up a toll on your attitude, and you get bitter, and it's just like, it's hard to explain unless you competed as long as I did. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the story. We'll talk later.